While the world's eyes were fixed on Europe, another war was raging thousands of miles away, across the heart of Africa. It wasn't just about empires or front lines. It was about survival, pride, and power in the colonies that Europe had carved up decades earlier. And when World War I began, Africa became a silent battlefield, one that history nearly forgot. From the deserts of the north to the jungles of the Congo, millions of Africans were drawn into a war that wasn't their own. Britain, France, and Germany dragged their colonies into the fight, using them for soldiers, laborers, and supplies. For many, it was the first time they had even heard of the nations they were supposed to die for. In August 1914, French and British troops invaded German Togoland, one of the first battles of the entire war. German forces, outnumbered and isolated, fought back fiercely but surrendered within weeks. The wireless station at Kamina, Germany's vital communication hub, was destroyed to prevent it from falling into Allied hands. Further west, the fight moved to German Kamerun, now Cameroon. It became one of the most brutal African campaigns of the war. Battles raged in swamps, jungles, and river valleys, disease and exhaustion claiming more lives than bullets. By 1916, the German colony finally fell, carved up between Britain and France. In the south, German Southwest Africa, modern-day Namibia, became the next battleground. German settlers and colonial troops clashed with forces from the newly formed Union of South Africa. It was a war between Europeans, fought on African soil. By mid-1915, the Germans surrendered, but not without fierce resistance. But in German East Africa, one man refused to surrender, Colonel Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck. A master of guerrilla warfare, he turned a colonial war into a 4-year nightmare for the Allies. With just a few thousand men, many of them African askaris, he tied down over 100,000 British, Belgian, and Portuguese troops. Lettow-Vorbeck's army moved like ghosts, striking supply lines, vanishing into the jungle, surviving on captured food and supplies. He never won big battles, but he never stopped fighting. When Europe signed the armistice in 1918, he was still in the field, undefeated. He surrendered 2 weeks later, the last German commander of the war to lay down arms. Behind every battle were the forgotten millions, the African porters and laborers who carried ammunition, built roads, and died in silence. Over 2 million Africans served in some way during the Great War. Their sacrifices were immense, yet history barely spoke their names. When the guns finally fell silent, Africa had been changed forever. Germany lost all its colonies. Britain and France redrew the map not for freedom but for empire. But in the hearts of those who had fought and suffered, the war planted a new seed, the first sparks of independence movements that would rise decades later. The African campaigns of World War I were not just sideshows to Europe's struggle. They were the beginning of Africa's long journey toward freedom, born from the fires of a war that was never truly theirs. This was the Forgotten Front, where courage had no flag and victory meant survival.